Hello, and welcome to another session of What the? Anyway, today I am going to discuss the circumstances of a startup and something that is pre revenue. Now, a lot of people I have spoken with ask me if I have a startup. And I have to explain to them that no, not have a startup. My company's been around since around 2005-ish. And yeah, it's now 2019. Although I'm pre-revenue. But for some reason, they want to classify my company as a startup, per se. And then at that point, I have to shed light on the circumstances surrounding the jargon that they're familiar with and explain to them why is it that they're not interested in finding out more and they're hung up on the word startup. So, that is where the corruption is. Typically, these companies that, we say that, hey, we are institutional investors, blah, 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 so on and so forth, they really are not institutional investors. All they are, they want to fish for information. More specifically, intellectual property. And thus, when they do, I would say, advertise for their, we look for companies that have a positive fiscal balance over the last 3 years, and then at that point with growth margins exceeding X percentage and a revenue that is, they always ask for some type of cash balance that accumulates every month. So, anyway, and what I have found, I have seen companies that for the last 10 years have not turned a profit. And I'm wondering how they keep getting investors to invest in those companies. Well, come to find out, there are opportunities that they can write off losses. And the depreciation of losses that they can write off are crazy. They can multiply it times like 3 times or something like that for depreciation. And the technologies are so archaic, they depreciate so quickly and they lose money, and then they need government subsidies just to stay above water. It behooves me how much money is wasted on all these archaic ideologies that are obsolete when there's innovation that could actually propel the United States forward in achieving so many different opportunities to where we could actually increase minimum wage, we could end student debt, we could pay teachers twice their salaries, we could, we could be where we want to be as the greatest country in the world. Although, for some reason, there's a struggle. And the struggle is maintaining the status quo. Why do they want to maintain the status quo? And that's what I do not understand. The circumstances of when we are at the cusp of all this innovation and all these opportunities to enrich people's lives for the better, but they want to oppress and maintain this hierarchy of, well, what is it called? Aristocracy, where the rich are so wealthy, but they're really kind of, what can I say? not in tune. They're out of touch with the public. And they act somewhat inappropriate. I mean, there's inappropriate behavior by those who have money beyond all belief, and yet they act extremely inappropriate and cannot communicate effectively with just the general population. And therein lies the problem, because they're making decisions that affect, well, our economy, which ultimately affects our way of life in regards to the quality of life that we lead. So, and we're all wanting quality of life, good food, clothing, roof over our heads, all that other stuff. And those are the basic, circumstances. Although, how many homeless people do we have? How many people do we have that are hungry? How many people do we have that are in debt? How many people are, are not able to seek adequate health care? So you got all these circumstances that should not even exist, considering we are one of the richest countries in the world on paper, but looking around in our own communities and looking at the circumstances of how is that like that when we have all these resources to create solutions to where that should never exist again. So that's the dilemma. And as I was saying, I have to compete against losing companies because they're a write-off and they never generate a profit. Meanwhile, my company has solutions and generates a profit for people to invest in, like unions, to where those that work in the union can receive a pension when they retire and possibly travel around the world. So there's an exit strategy for those that actually have put in the time and the labor and have built what this country is today, the infrastructure and so on and so forth. So that's what I'm really trying to explain, is that companies that are innovative and that create solutions and that can make definitely a profit are not given the opportunity to explore those circumstances because of the inappropriate behavior by those that have the money to influence our quality of life. It's unfair. Anyway, this has been another session of What the